So good morning, everybody. This is Nick.
Hello,
Good morning, Nick.
How you doing, Scott?
Good.
Good. Whoa.
Hope someone's all right there. Well, good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started here. We're going to be doing the Keystroke Live today and going over lot number tracking. And what I'm going to do here for a while I go through this, I'm going to mute everybody. And then if you have any important questions, you can use the chat function down below. And we'll go ahead and get started. And as you know, we're doing lot number tracking today, and this uses serial numbers for doing this. We're going to be doing Keystroke Live every Thursday for those that haven't been here. Looks like we have a very familiar crew. Let's first talk about the lot number tracking. Keystroke in the past has always used serial numbers for different types of items, but then we added the ability to use lot number tracking with the same serial number field. And it does this by putting in a certain quantity per serial number or lot. And I'll be showing you just basic serial numbers just to give you the idea of how they work, which most of you already know. And then we're going to show how you can just turn on lot number tracking and use both of them together. Lot number tracking, for people that don't know, can be used for things like medications, where you get different lots from a manufacturer, and if there's ever a recall, you know how many of those items you might have in stock from a certain lot. Date-sensitive food. We do have some dealers using this for a food line that creates packaged food like the sandwiches and stuff you might buy in convenience stores. And when it becomes date-sensitive, they actually put a date in and a quantity. They go and remove the food items from the shelf because they know what they have because they can report on it. And again, we talk about serial numbers, so we'll get started. I'm going to jump right into Keystroke here. And there we go. I've already pulled up an item in our tutor database here. This is just a printer that we have, and it's a serialized item. Notice in the bottom left, the serial number flag is checked. If I click on serial numbers at the bottom, in this case, we have 9 printers on hand, and here's my list of 9 serial numbers. So simple stuff is if we buy serialized items, we enter the serial number at the time. When we sell serialized items, the serial number gets taken out of stock. And we're going to show you here how we're going to turn on the feature in Configuration Manager on how to use lot number tracking. So I'm going to go to Configuration Manager from the main menu, or the exit menu in my case, under Settings and Parameters. And here down by the serial number prefix, which is used to designate the beginning of a serial number, and as a carriage return designates the end of the serial number, we have this lot number quantity code. This is just used as a reference point, but we have some examples in our F1 help that say if we use something simple like the word quantity, or QTY for instance, that would kind of indicate, okay, I bought a package, a box of, let's say, 12 vitamins, and they all have a certain lot number. And I'm going to say that there's a quantity of 12 eventually, and you'll see how this works. I'm going to pad this or buffer this with spaces because I think it just looks nicer on receipts and invoices and reports. So this is actually space down here on the bottom, space, QTY, colon, space, and that's it. I'm going to turn on the Add to Serialized Entry. I think this makes things very clear. If you're in a business that wants to automate this and start scanning information in for lot number tracking, you probably would have a different kind of a delimiter and maybe or maybe not use the serialized entry. But I'm going to turn it on and show you how this works. So we'll save this. And let's go set up, first of all, just quickly a new item in the database. And okay, and so let's just call this, let's give it some pricing. I'm just going to check the serialized box here. When I go ahead and check the serialized box, this item is pretty much ready to go for the lot quantity. So I'll hit F10 and save that. Let's go buy this in Purchase Manager, and you'll see this start to unfold. So let's say from whatever vendor I have here. Oh, let's see, non-high distributing. Let's say I want to buy that new item, the vitamins. Let's say I've ordered a quantity of 100 of these, and maybe they come in, let's call it a quantity of 120. They come in, let's say, 12 per box, and I bought 10 boxes of vitamins here. And I'm just going to go ahead and receive them to keep this simple. And here comes up with this entry for this. And so let's say, in inspecting the labels on the 10 boxes that I have, we'll call it lot number A100. I guess we'll just call it something like that. I'm making this part of it up. And let's say I have 4 boxes of that, so I have 48 of those. And so it asks me for the next one. Let's call this one's called B200. July, maybe I bought 48 of those. So now I got to do some math. So you got 12 left, I think, or 24 left to buy. And so let's call this C300. And I have 2 boxes of those, or 24, 12 per box. I'm just making that up. So there it goes ahead and receives it. I'll just finish this transaction here, and we'll come back and look at the inventory item right now. So if I look at this vitamin inventory item, I'm just doing this on the fly here with the F3 key. It shows that I have 120 in stock. If I look at the serial numbers, these are the different lots. This is one lot here of quantity of 48, and this is a different lot. So let's say this is a vitamin that I sell and I need to keep track of lots, or maybe it's an over-the-counter medicine, which is more prevalent nowadays. And I sell, actually I probably should be putting in some kind of customer. And I sell that item. And let's say I've got 4 of them at the register, and they all have the same lot quantity on them. So I'm just going to hit enter on this one and say I've got a quantity of 4. And then let's go ahead and finish this sale, and I'll show you what happens. So we've just finished the sale, and let's take a look at the inventory record again. Now that I've sold 4, so the quantity on hand went down. If I take a look at the remaining lots or serial numbers, in here I can show that I still have all 48 of the first lot, 48 of the second, but now I have 20 of the third lot. And you could break this down differently. Let's say a new customer comes in and they buy 2 of the boxes, and the boxes are different. So let's just do a similar sale. And let's say they buy 1 box here, which is 12 of these. And then we do the vitamin again. And they buy 1 box of this, which is 12 of these. So now we have a total sold of 24, which is 2 boxes of the vitamins. I'll tender this and save it. Now we'll just jump right back and take a look at the sale. I'll just look at the item on the top here. First of all, taking a look at the line item comment, when you sell lot quantities, you're going to get this kind of a comment created, and this is due to the characters I've chosen in Configuration Manager. I use S/N, but I could use the word lot, and I could, in the quantity here, I could just put a dash symbol. I don't have to put the words in there and so forth. So if this would actually print on a receipt and show us what was purchased. So you would see that lot quantity, you'd see this lot quantity, and so forth. And looking at the item one last time, the quantity in hand is now 92, and if you look at the list of serial numbers, which are the different lots, this is what's remaining. And so if there was a recall of, let's say, the C300, or if you had to find those because for some reason you had to send them back, you can easily go in, run a report. You can pull up the item and say, first of all, do I have any of those? Because if you don't have any of them, you don't have to waste your time go looking through all the boxes, because Keystroke would tell you if you had any of those. And then let's say the B200, if you needed that, you could say, well, I should have 4 boxes back there unless they've been broken down or broken out. So that basically is a little bit about lot tracking. There's not too much more to it. I don't think I've set up a form right now to print the actual line item comments. Oh, I did here. Let's kind of blow this up if you want to see it. So again, this would be what an invoice might look like, and it would show what was sold. So you can kind of use this as your company would need to do it. Like you could use the word lot and so forth. So that is pretty much it in a nutshell, and it's really all based on, and I'll just reiterate, the turning on the one parameter in Configuration Manager under Settings and Parameters, and this is where you'd put in the prefix, and then this is where you'd put in, we'll call it kind of like a delimiter. And if I wanted to change this, I mentioned this, but I could change it to like lot number, and I could just say something like that. So let's see how this might look on a printed receipt selling the same item. Now the old receipts, the old invoice I already created would retain what it used to be, so you can change this on the fly, but you'll find out that it will look a little different. So let's say this person bought all 8 of, I think I messed up here. Well, let's go back. Maybe the equal sign is not what you should be using. Okay, we'll get to this here. I'm just bouncing back, checking my settings there. It's not prompting me for the quantity. That's kind of interesting. It's probably because of that other delimiter I just used. Well, let me check into that, because there's something. By the way, if you don't enter enough, you get this message. But I'll check into that. I think it should allow for any characters. I think minus signs and equal signs are probably special characters. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody, and if they have any specific questions, I'd like to address them now about lot number tracking as I go fix this and see if I can get it to work again. Does anyone have any questions on lot number tracking?
Hey, Mike, could you explain maybe in the parameters there why you would not want to have the add to serialized entry flag on?
It actually, if you wanted it, good question, Nick. If you wanted it printed on a form, then you would put the quantity in here and not check this, because when you might be scanning a certain item, you might be scanning a barcode and then saying quantity of 5, and you don't want to have to jump your cursor over the word quantity. And I'll turn it off here, and we'll see if I get it working in here again. Let's try this one more time. I just turned that off and to show you. So when I pick it here, you see it didn't show me, it didn't put in what you saw before would have been a case where I'd have to put my cursor after the word QTY and put the quantity in after that on the purchasing side of it.
That's right.
So anyhow, yeah, it's on the purchasing side. I think that's when I actually saw it pop that message up. So it's just about if you actually turn that parameter off when you want to automate it by using this, just say a barcode and then typing a numeric keypad or so forth. You put in those words if you actually want to put the cursor on each side and kind of build up the look and feel of it. It's using Purchase Manager. Good question.
Thanks, Mike.
Any other questions on lot number tracking today?
Yeah, Mike, what happened to the serial numbers on the printers when you turned on all that stuff?
They still remain, so that was a good question. He was asking about the selling of the printers. Oh, I'm in purchasing. Let's go ahead and, sorry about that. Back to sales manager. When you actually sell the serialized item for the printer, it just pulls up the list and so forth. And when you hit enter, this is a script. I should have turned this off, but that's a script. That's nothing to, that's just an add-along printer cable that comes with it or kind of thing. Your serial numbers on that are just the same. And again, I changed the word SN to lot number to show you you can actually see it different ways. Or you could put in S/N space lot, do the same thing. It really doesn't affect them. It only affects it is if an inventory item has on it, let's look at the vitamin item, for instance, Gordon. If I look at this item in here, it has this, I call it kind of a delimiter. It's kind of a weird way to think of it, but it's a separator that it recognizes in the settings that this is a special case. When I see that separator matches what's in Configuration Manager, then I run a different routine that says how many of this item. But the printer doesn't have that. We'll call it separator. Was it the brother one I think I was looking at? It doesn't have that separator, so it just accepts it as a regular serial number. So you can do both. That's the best part of it. And I think I just realized how I broke it in the past here is that I had already received that item with that delimiter, we'll call it, in there, or the separator. And if I go back and found I think I broke it, I broke it by changing it to this, and then it didn't recognize that one item. I would have had to either fix those items or done this up front. So there is a negative impact if you change your mind later, it looks like. That's a good question. Did I answer that question for you, Gordon?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not totally clear how, when you add a new item, it distinguishes between serial number only and lot number with the extra delimiter, since this is in Configuration Manager where you put this lot quantity code thing in.
That's a good question. I'm thinking it has to do with the way I receive the items. If I purchase this brother printer.
I'm on a seminar for another 20 minutes.
So I think right here, you know, I would have to, it's that serialized entry is what I think is what's turning this on and off. The serialized entry would actually put in, if I wanted to, it would put in something like, I would put in like A100-4, and that would actually tell it, because I used the dash symbol, that that is going to be an item, because it's going to, later on, it's going to recognize that dash symbol in there as the separator and go, oh, you're the special case. So it's really on the entry. Now I turned off, let's just set this back to 0. Let's go back and change that again, because this might help clarify this.
Okay.
It's supposed to be quantity. I turned off add to items to serialized items. So if I go back to purchasing now and pull up the printer,
Let me have him call you as soon as he gets off. Okay?
you see how this is actually added for me?
Yes.
If I were going to scan just an item and call it, you know, without the QTY in there, that would be seen as just one serial number. So the question would be is if you're receiving, looks like if you're receiving serialized items, you don't want that entry on. If you're going to receive lot quantities, you want it on. Or you can leave it off and just always type it in by yourself, and it could be a dash, not the word QTY. So this is how I'm going to receive 5 of them, and it knows that those were serial numbers because it didn't have the actual QTY in the inside that serial number field. It's kind of like a spacer in the middle there. Clear as mud.
That's the
Sorry?
Mike,
Yeah.
This is Jesse. I have a question. What if you have lot numbers and serial numbers?
Well, we kind of just went through that process here by showing you it's all based on the separator. If this said quantity 3, then it would know it's a lot number. And please disregard the word lot on the left. That's not what makes it a lot. It's this delimiter in here that says space QTY space, and actually it's, to be accurate, to make it work, it would have to be that, because that's what I set up to be. Then it says that's a lot of 3 versus 1, 1, and 1, and so this would be too many serial numbers for this 5. There'd be 3, and I'd have to take out 2. Should look something like that. So that's a good question. I think the thing is to play around with it and see you can do both. It just distinguishes itself based on the space QTY, which I've chosen as my text in Configuration Manager. So let me clear this line here. Let's say I buy a printer and I'm not paying attention. Let's do 5 again. And I put in a serial number and I don't do anything, it would say that's a quantity of 1. It would default automatically. But if I said this is 4 of them, then it's going to look for one more serial number, quantity of 1. Now it knows it's got 5 because it used that delimiter. The QTY space is not part of the serial number. That just kind of reminds me, probably don't use a dash because they could be part of serial numbers like A100-1 and A100-2. So, Jesse, did that kind of help separate the two? Seems to be that's the confusing part about how do you do both.
Pretty much so. I'm going to have to play around with that.
Yeah, it's just a matter of do you use the word QTY : in there or not. If I had something different. If I didn't, it would just be serial numbers. And again, I shouldn't have put the word lot in there and then flip-flop around. That made that confusing. Does anyone else have a question for me? Well, great. Well, that concludes our presentation, and then we're going to have next week we're going to be doing Summarize History with Jay. Jay's going to be going over the Summarize History function next Thursday. Thank you, everyone.